Hello, I'm Dante from Lowmanor and welcome to this Overwatch news update. We just had a new developer update from Jeff along with forum posts going through the rework of Torbjorn. So if you haven't seen it already, I highly recommend you go check out the latest developer update over at the Play Overwatch channel. I'll cover most of it here, but I want to focus more on Torbjorn's changes themselves. He's had his major rework and is now on the PTR. The most significant change is that he's essentially had the Mercy treatment, with his ultimate being modified slightly and moved to an ability slot, replacing his previous armor and scrap mechanic. This new ability is called Overload. It grants Torb 150 armor, increases his movement speed, attack speed, reload speed and hammer speed by 30%, lasting for 5 seconds with a 12-second cooldown. Previously you had to use Molten Core to survive through damage. You can use Overload to do the same, but a lot more often. While replacing the turret element, it moves the focus onto Torb's gunplay with the turret acting as a general support. The turret itself has been slightly overhauled. It no longer has to be deployed, then built. Instead you just throw it out and it deploys by itself into what used to be a level 2 turret. The previous level 1 and 3 versions have been entirely removed. Now you can just throw it out on some high ground or to cover a point, then run off and do your thing. You also get a sub ability to the turret, allowing you to destroy it to start the cooldown for a new deployment. Useful for when the turret stops being effective in its current position. The final ability change is something entirely new. Still called Molten Core, Torbjorn's ultimate is now an area denial tool that does pretty high damage to anyone that stands within it. Rather than just being a generic AoE that can be laid down, you actually get a few seconds to shoot it out and make it fit an area you want it to. You get 10 charges and 6 seconds to deploy them. You can bounce it off objects and walls to form a puddle once hitting the ground surface. They even do extra damage to those wearing armor, making them extremely effective against tanks or, coincidentally, his daughter Brigitte. They do 130 damage per second to regular targets and a huge 190 to anyone with armor. I personally like this ult, and it's a lot more effective in games than it sounds when used in the right places. His final change is probably one of his most significant, even if you may not notice it at first. His rivet gun has been buffed in general to make it more threatening. Not only has his damage been increased by 10, making it 70 per shot, it's now faster and more reliable with improved reload times, down to 2 seconds. This change goes for both primary and alternate fire, which should make him a significant threat at close and medium range, while actually making him a bit more useful over longer ranges. I already felt like he did pretty good damage, now he'll be able to be more consistent at landing those shots, a bit like Mei's alternate fire. But what do I think of this new Torbjorn, and will it make him more reliable? Well, first off, I already liked Torbjorn, primarily for his rivet gun using Molten Core as a reason to get into people's faces rather than just have the turret buff, which it seems Blizzard has leaned into heavily. His new Overload means he's really tanky at times, allowing him to kill most heroes in the game in 3 to 4 shots with a high His new Overload means he's really tanky at times, allowing him to kill most heroes in 3 to 4 shots with a high fire rate. I don't think he can really tell if this fixes him until he hits live, but he definitely feels stronger. You don't need to rely on his turret to do all the damage, and although the loss of armor lowers his support function, the other changes make him more useful in more situations. I found him to be especially strong on any point capture or defenses. Throw out the turret on a flank, pop Overload and run in guns blazing, then back off if you need to. Or save Overload for the 150 armor it provides, with the damage as an additional bonus. Both styles work with a relatively short cooldown, you get to use it a lot. In addition to these changes, there have been a few other quality of life changes. The most obvious when you're playing is Mei's ultimate, which is now a sphere, not a circle, on the ground that sometimes falls into the floor, making it not only look much better, but also being visually more useful. Along these same lines, there's been a few other character changes, such as Pharah's damage being more focused on doing direct hits rather than splash damage. So hopefully these all work together to make the game feel a lot better, and I can't wait to see what they do once they hit live. But for now, the PTR is a pretty good place to test them out, so I encourage everyone to go try out these new changes. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like, you can subscribe to support the channel, and use the bell to be notified of new content as it goes live. Until next time, I've been Dante, thanks for watching.